Hello and welcome everyone to the Heal Yourself, Heal the Earth Global Online Conference, where you will receive inspiration and empowering tools to deepen into your path of personal and planetary healing. I am your host, Monique Challis, and today I'm really excited to be speaking with Camilla Blossom Bishop. Now, Camilla is an earth alchemist, intuitive educator, and elemental medicine woman. She's passionate about sharing her magical stories and opening others to co-creative relationship with Mother Earth and the elementals, fairies, Davic realms, land spirits, ancestors, and wisdom keepers. Camilla is also a pioneering flower essence alchemist, author, land healer, and founder of Earth School, located in the Pacific Northwest of USA and online. So welcome, Camilla. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Monique. I'm really excited to be here.
Great. And the title of Camilla's talk today is Elemental Healing with Mermaids, Dragons, Gnomes, and Fairies. So I wonder if we could begin with you telling us a little bit about your own story and your own journey and how you came to connect with the elementals.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm really getting encouragement. The elementals call me like a voice for Mother Earth through the elementals. And so they're really encouraging me to share more about my story of how I got into it. Partly so people can recognize too that they may already have that connection, but also that you can deepen that and create more. So for me, I just found these different, when I moved to Oregon, I found that these different experiences were happening spiritually, where these different elementals would show up and inform kind of the next part of my life. And so first it was the flower fairies and devas and spirits of plants. And I was really into learning about plants. And so they guided me to begin making flower essences. And through that practice, I was guided all over the land of near the Columbia River Gorge, where I was living, and finding these amazing plants and trees. I could really feel the ancestors and the land spirits and everyone wanting to be part of that medicine. And so, so that was a big opening for me in 2000. And so I really got into flower essences. And then time went on, and then I met a mermaid years later. I was at the river where I was living near the Mount Hood, East, and I had this feeling of this energy moving across the water, and in my inner vision recognized, asked actually, what are you? Well, who are you? She said, well, I'm a mermaid and my name is Britta. And I said, well, why have you come to me? And she said, well, I want you to tell people that I'm real, that I actually exist, and then they'll care for the water more. Oh. And after I heard that, yeah, my heart was just, oh, wow, that they're coming to me for these very poignant and powerful reasons. And so I began a path of working a lot with water healing and ended up even leaving the Northwest, traveling all around Western US and Hawaii and doing water ceremony with a Native American man and learning a lot about healing, working with the water elementals and mermaids and getting in touch with a lot of Lemurian energy, which a lot of us can recognize deep down. And then I met a blue elf, kind of like a celestial creature.
Wow.
And it was so beautiful. It was this really tall being. It was this gorgeous blue color face, and it had white fur and like diamonds embedded in his skin. And I'm like, who is this being? And it was very cryptic. He didn't really explain much to me. So I just kind of followed along, being open and listening how I can. It all comes in lots of different ways for my perception. And then I was led to this land. I really needed a home, a place I could be on land and root, because I'd been traveling, and I met this woman, and I came out to her land near the Columbia River Gorge in Mosier, Oregon, and we were sharing and talking about some teaching, and then we did this meditation to connect with the earth, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I see this blue elf, and this blue elf is beseeching me to invite you to live here and work with me, and that we be two medicine women and work on the land and create like a Fintorn like place where the nature spirits and fairies and elementals and all the beings can be here and express themselves and connect with other humans." So I did that for 3 years and ended up making this incredible unicorn garden, which had all these different elemental altars. And so I'd have these events where we'd activate each of these altars, the air altar and the water altar, and connect with those elementals. And it became this really beautiful opening to work with them deeper for our own healing, our own self-care. But also, every time we do that, it was this connection of giving back to Mother Earth and helping Mother Earth, and vice versa. So when we gave to Mother Earth and did our offerings and our prayers, then she would receive it and it would come back to us. So there was this beautiful reciprocity, which I love how you're doing this event, because it's very much about that, right?
Yes.
The body, healing the body and the earth.
Exactly.
And then the last being, I know it's kind of a long story. I guess it's like reflecting on my life. And then the last one was, we were told to close the land, and my friends sold the land. And I was guided I kept getting this message, like, go with the dolphins, go with the mermaids, go. And so I was guided to go to Hawaii, the big island, and live there. So I sold everything. I moved to the big island. And right before I moved, I had this vision. When I was over there for another ceremony, I was really so touched. It was a water ceremony. I was so touched to meet the kahuna people, some of the Lemurian grandmothers, they'd call themselves. And these kahuna were really in touch with the volcano and worked with Pele to kind of balance the fire, especially in the ring of fire, Hawaii being the center. Like, there's a need for us to really work with that element, with the dragons and the fire and Pele, to help calm and release and work with the earth. She needs the co-creation of us humans. And so in the vision, I saw myself in a circle around an erupting volcano. And, but I was kind of stepped back, and there were light workers and kahuna and medicine people working with the fire and Pele. And then they're like, "Come on up." I'm like, "What?" And I was really humbled to be asked, but realized, okay, this is my time to really step into my dragon self, my fire energy, my leadership, my strength, and everything fire represents, and love. And so I moved to Hawaii and spent 6 months and then another few months. And it really awakened and initiated me in the fire elementals and dragons. So realizing after all these things, like, I didn't even put it all together until more recently, that, oh my gosh, each of these meetings with a different elemental being, and I followed their promptings, guided me to another chapter of my life, and a teaching, and also an ability to teach. And so now I'm kind of bringing it all together and working with all of them, as I have been, but
That's an
sharing.
amazing story. That's so amazing. Had you always seen them as a child, or had you consciously tried to connect with them, or did they just come to you?
Yeah, I'm more of an emotional empath, and I didn't really know that as a child, but like a lot of us, I think we don't tend to always see. Yeah, and there's a lot of people, they're like, "I want to see a fairy, I want to see a this and that." And it's like, well, that will come, but also not really the point. And I think I want to share that too, because for me, especially as a child, I played in the woods a lot. I was given kind of free reign to go. We'd go up to the Adirondacks of New York State, and it's 6 million acres of woods and lakes. And so we would be up there in the woods, and I just loved it. I felt like home. I felt like myself. I felt happy. And so a lot of the connections I had were very emotionally based and very the feeling of everything and tuned in. But it wasn't like, oh, I see fairies. It was just like, I call it, and now I've kind of used this term, seamless communication, because there's a lot of us too that we don't have to try anything to connect. We already are. We maybe even already a mermaid or already a gnome, like some kind of elemental. We are. And so, so just knowing like seamless communication is when we're already connected, we're already there. And so just sort of encouraging that. And as I've gone on this path, my spiritual sight has opened. And I was even taught about spiritual sight from the curandero I worked with to not use your eyes to see into those realms, because you can harm your eyes. That's according to him, is what he said. So like really honor your imagination. And so I've always used my imagination, pretending my inner child, that playful energy to create the connection. And then it comes in all different ways.
Right. Okay. I wonder if you could define what you mean by elementals, because some people just think earth, fire, water, whereas you're including mermaids and, these mystical creatures.
Yeah. Okay. So the elementals, as we know, are like the primal forces of creation, right? They're the origins of everything on this planet. And so when we can really honor that energy, like is the energy of everything, and the force of that power, to know you can also like open relationship. And one of the messages I got from the fairy realms, elemental realms, is like, we are not here to heal Mother Earth. We're here to heal our relationship with Mother Earth. And so, so the way that I find is really helpful for myself and a lot of others, and sort of been a cultural, ancestral practice, is to relate with these elementals through the beings that are them, that animate them, that so in the case of like water, there's spirits of the water, there's an animation. And for some people it's good enough just water, like that there's spirit there, there's emotion, there's feeling, and that's great. But for me, when these beings started showing up, I felt like, okay, I really want to engage in a relationship. So it gives you an opportunity to have maybe a really reflective relationship where you can be mirrored different things back to yourself to learn. And then they learn too. And so in the water world, spirit, the mermaids is who came. So that's who I work with. Some people call that undines. You can also work with goddesses of the water, Yamaya or Sulis. So there's different kinds of beings, or archangels, angels that work with water, or different elements. But the elemental beings to me are, that dragon for the fire energy, or salamanders, is the undines and mermaids. The gnomes is who came to me, but the elves and the pixies and other beings work with the earth. And then the air, there's a sylphs is a traditional word. I tend to use more like fairies, or notice that in the air realm, a lot of birds, or angels or wind spirits are the way I work with them. So it's sort of like a fun invitation, I guess, for everyone to see how you connect elementally, which beings you connect with.
Exactly. Thank you for that. When I first started working with water, it's kind of funny. It's a fish came, and it was kind of
Yeah.
a cartoon-like fish with big
Mm-hmm.
fish lips.
That's
I just thought I'd
awesome.
share that. Um,
Yeah.
but you know, I think my first spiritual teacher said to me, for some reason, fairies came up, and I've always been
Mm-hmm.
I love flower fairies, just kind of intrigued or really interested. And she just said to me, Monique, do not get involved with fairies. You will regret it. They will trick you. It's awful. And I know a lot of people are
Yeah.
afraid of working with
Yeah.
elementals. So what would you say?
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, thank you for that question. It's so good. Because also I kind of see the fairy realm as taboo even too among some people,
Yes.
because they're afraid to, if they're either afraid of like what you're talking about, or they're afraid to really move deeper into their lineage, because there's been persecution and karma that way, or because there's inner child wounding. And so that can create blocks to that playful energy. But yeah, just to kind of explain how I look at that all, I kind of, elementals are like part of the fairy realm, but there's, in the US is very different from UK, and my understanding at least. And I've been involved with the Fairy Congress, an event here for a long time. So I've got to learn a lot of different things about like the fairy race of she beings. And so I kind of want to say that there's the fairy race, which people work with, and I do work with, um, and it's a different kind of realm than the fairy realm, nature spirit realm. So there's different ways you can relate. And from my understanding of being in the UK, there's a very different kind of energy around the elementals and around the fairy realms. But my experience here is that it's really been important for me to honor the ancestors of the land here and work with them, so that, because that this is their homeland and I came here later, my people. And so one of the practices is to really honor and recognize the tribes. You can do that right now. Honor and recognize the tribes, like the Cowlitz, the Klickitat, and other tribes that have been here for a long time. And I did travel with a Native American man, and he would call it little people. They had fox fairies. But some of these fairies like came.
I
That
love
was a fairy that I know that flew around the forest. The grandmothers of his tribe, the Paiute and Washoe in California, um, they would ask the fox fairies of the forest to go around the forest and check with all the different beings and come back and tell the grandmothers like what's the state of the forest, what needs help. And
Wow.
so like there's a tradition here, but there's also the immigration of all these fairies that came. And so my experience has always been positive and loving, and that some of these beings even need help. But I also think it's important in any spiritual work, whether you're working with fairies or whatever realm, shamanically, is that you have good protocols. And that's something I do teach people, like how to make sure that you're setting good boundaries and you're working with positive energies, and that you're honoring the land and asking permission. So I would say those things have felt really important to me, to partly to help us feel safe, and also to not tread where we're not, where we don't belong, and to allow an invitation to be open to us, to work with the ones that really do want to work with us. So that's what I encourage, is that kind of relationship, not just randomly going somewhere in some dark woods and trying to do stuff,
Right.
do spells and stuff. It's like, no. Like I'm really, I'm more, not cautious, but mindful of how you go about it, how you create that relationship, who you want to deal with, right? There's a lot of spirits. You have to have boundaries in the spirit realms. So I would say those are a few thoughts on different kinds of fairies.
Right. Okay. Whenever I lose something in my house, I ask the fairies to help me find it. When
Yeah.
I look everywhere and then I say, okay, fairies, will you help me? And they
Hmm.
always do. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. You're like, it's building relationship,
Mm.
having that communication.
And you mentioned the ancestors on the land, and you listed them. And I just thought, I don't know all the tribes or all the names of the ancestors on the land I'm on currently.
Hmm.
Do you think that's important to find out their names and
I
research?
do. There was a group of Native Americans from the US and from Canada that created um, a kind of protocol for um, us immigrants, European, those who've come here later, like how we can honor more
Right.
who's been here. And to me, I've worked a lot. I did a lot of ancestor healing. I still do, and it's part of my work. And also, I do land clearing work with different realms on land. So some of it's fairy realms and elementals, but a lot of it's like clearing old imprints and violence and different things that have happened. And so the ancestors are really powerful to work with. They often sometimes need help too. So that's kind of a whole nother topic, um, but I think wherever you are, I think you honor Mother Earth by opening and honoring who were the people that took care of this place, whose origins are here, who took care of the plants, who sang with the waters, who know this land, whose traditions were born out of this place. Because that's how I feel like a lot of my teaching has come directly from nature, like just being out with the plants and the flowers and the land is where most of it came from. Um, being informed by the earth herself and the beings of it. So, so that's a really beautiful information about, and basically what they say, then indigenous people say is, if you can say a prayer before events, before ceremonies, at your home, and just say, I would like to honor and recognize and respect those people, those peoples, those tribes, those indigenous souls that have walked this land or still do. And you can do some research and see, well, who was here before I was here.
Mm.
And so it's a really powerful practice, even if you don't know who they are, just asking that. And what that does is it opens the door for your relationship with the land in greater ways, because there's still guardians here that
Right.
are of indigenous, the souls of indigenous people often stay on the land. Some are ready to go. A lot of them are ready to go, but others are staying here and they want to work with us for the land and with the elementals. So I
Wow.
actually notice whenever I do anything on the land, like they gather and come with me and help. So
Mm.
even if you don't know what they're doing, if you call upon them, and I usually try to have a boundary, like make sure you're calling upon those who are healthy and healed.
Right.
If you don't know how to work with them in terms of helping them heal, because you can get into, a lot more. So creating that boundary of really honoring those. And if you want to have them part of, a ritual that you're doing for the land or prayer, you can call upon them and invite them, but also make good boundaries with your spiritual practice.
Great. Yeah. So what if um what if we want to cultivate a relationship, say with a dragon
Mm-hmm.
or a mermaid? How do we go about that? Where do we start if we haven't seen one or one hasn't come to us? How would
Yeah.
we go about that?
Okay. Well, that's partly what I'm teaching through my Earth School. So if you really want to go into it, invite people to explore that. But to start with, I like people to get like a really clear intention, like what is like passionate in you that wants to learn and explore and find out about, let's say, dragons. So learning about that element, I mean, dragons could be in different elements, but let's say the fire is what's speaking. Like learning about that element, starting to bring your awareness to what that means and what that's like. For example, when I was in Hawaii, the volcano went off. I guess I forgot to share that when I was over there. There was lava flowing everywhere. And I'm like, wow. Well, in a section of Hawaii, but I was there during it and not far away when it began. And just sitting in prayer. I like to make altars, so you can go outside or inside and make an altar with your intention. That your intention is really to connect with these beings, this dragon, let's say the dragons, your personal dragon, the dragons of the earth, and sit and meditate with them, bring gifts, ask the dragons how they want to work with you, what they want to be called, like see if you can open to communication just in meditation. And that's something I do guide people through in my online classes, but the altar is wonderful. And then if you visit it often and make that like a sacred place to connect with the dragons and keep bringing offerings. And I would also say, like, when you're starting, really ask permission. Like the first time you make an offering, you like using mica and flowers, and dragons love like popcorn and smoke and pink tulips, and be open to what they might like, and you can bring those and then ask permission. Do I have permission to connect with the dragons, or my own personal dragon? I'd really love to, and just really pour your heart into your intention and maybe speak that out loud, and then make this altar. And then the more you visit that, the more you're kind of bringing your energy to that. And then doing meditation, reading about them. A lot of it's awareness, and even keeping a journal, because sometimes what can happen, sort of that seamless communication I was talking about, is that not always like, oh, I'm going to see one now, or oh, I feel one on behind me, or
right.
Everyone's different how they experience. So even to have a journal, a dragon journal, and like every time like you see a dragon or something fiery happens, or like even dragons, like the ones I've met are mother dragons, and they're very loving. And the one that was in my unicorn garden liked to lick everyone. Like she was the mother and she wanted to nurture everyone. So like being open to what that might look like or might be, and then keep that in your journal, and then you'll be, oh wow, like look at all these different things, or people talked about dragons. I bumped into someone who's really into dragon. Like, okay, an example, I'm out at the woods near the forest near my house. I'm working with this spirit there, and it's like a overlighting water deva, and working with her and walking around. And then I happened to meet this lady who was on horseback, and we're talking. And I said, I do healing and energy work, and she's all excited. And I'm so excited because I want to do horseback riding. It's like a dream to get more into that. And so we're talking. And then it turns out her horse's name is Draco, like dragon. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
So there's a lot of synchronicities that will start happening just through opening in that way.
Does everyone have their own personal dragon?
I feel like that everyone is called to wanting to connect, has one. And everyone that's something I do often. And like I say, it's in my online work, is meeting your gnome, meeting your dragon, meeting your mermaid, meeting your air spirit or fairy. And so like, to me, everyone has one, whether you meet it right away or not. It's like you have one. So if you're drawn to this in any way, then you have at least one. You might have more.
Okay.
And to share one more thing, Monique, about when you like connect, a lot of them communicate through their colors, their coloring, and what they look like, or their name. And so, or the sounds, like the name they want to be called. And so let's say you wanted to tune in and connect with your dragon and you just saw red and green or turquoise, like that is kind of a sign of your dragon, what your dragon's like.
Okay.
And so you can kind of learn about your dragon that way.
Because I'm kind of seeing a red dragon on a flag with green on it because,
Oh, really?
well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
because the dragon is kind of the symbol of Wales,
yeah.
where I'm looking to move. And I wonder, are there more dragons in Wales? Is that why they're the symbol? But I can see it right now. He's just right here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, part of it is, I guess just when you said that, I had this flash. It's not always that there's more dragons or less dragons. It's there's a relationship there that's been
Okay.
cultivated for a long time.
Right.
And there are definitely like dragon paths. I've been working with some people who work with the land that way, the vortexes and the ley lines and all that, and dragon paths in certain places. And even there's a place, yeah, there's definitely dens and areas that have a lot more activity. So I guess I should say that too. But it's also like how people are working with them.
Hmm. It's
Like
fascinating.
there's this, I've been working, when I got back from Hawaii, I was called to go up to Port Townsend. And that whole peninsula, if you look on a map of in Washington State, out by the Olympic Peninsula, the area of Port Townsend looks just like a dragon. And then there's a huge wing, which is the whole Olympic Peninsula. And so when I was up there a few years back, I got the message from the dragons that they're like, help, we need help. We need people to honor us. We need to come to life, or we're grieving, we're hurting. We need communication open. And so the last few years I've been working on that, working with people and we just did a really powerful ceremony up there to help awaken that energy and open the dragons and help
Hmm.
free up their heart. And so there are places like Wales, sounds like maybe you're being called to do
Yes.
more with the dragons there.
Yes, I'm thinking about it. I'm going to have to go into this deeper.
Yeah, for sure.
I was just thinking, when you told that story about the dragon saying they need help, why do you think, or do you think it's more important now for us to be consciously working with the elementals? Do you think they're more in need
Yeah.
now with the way the earth is at the moment, and environmentally?
Yeah, there's a number of things going on. There's the evolution of our planet, as most of you are aware of, that we're going from the 3D to the 5D to the fifth dimension. So we're moving vibrationally to a much higher level, and that has awakened the dragons. Even some years back, they were always like, we want to meet our people. They're really sad. They're like, we want to meet our people. And so now is really an important time for us to like come in. I call it the land council, like come in council with all the different beings, the dragon councils and the gnome councils, and be part of it, like be in the circle, not be like, oh, we're up here and we control the earth, which is how it's been going on, right? So
Exactly.
we need to come in healthy relationship with the the dragons and all the elementals, because they are the power of this earth. They need to be co-creatively working with us. And even things like earthquakes and volcanoes and the stresses of Mother Earth that she's been put under for lots of different reasons,
Mm.
um, like she needs the support and help from us opening to our like multidimensional self, which may already be working with these energies and not even know it. So a lot of it's like remembering and awakening to our true soul path, that we're here to be nurturing and supporting the earth and going through this process. For example, where I live, there's an earth portal, and it's an acupuncture point for the Ring of Fire. And so it's a place where you can touch in and give prayers and help Mother Earth release stress, so there doesn't need to be so many earthquakes. There may still be earthquakes, and volcanoes, but in any way that we can co-create with them, starting with ourselves in this more personal way. And that then opens and bridges us, kind of like what you're doing with this whole program, is like connecting us personally and reflectively and learning about our own self. And then we can connect more with those bigger gifts of like the planetary healing, and also come together. I've done the planetary work for a long time, but really want to encourage people to open to that. And even if you don't always understand what you're doing, you can just show up places and being present and being open and allowing like your dragon to be with you and your mermaids to help you, and create healing just through your own being or your own movement, your song, your offerings, your teachings, whatever you're doing. So it's all like connected.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I wonder if you have any magical stories you could share.
Oh my gosh, I have a lot of them.
Put you on the
Let
spot.
me think for a minute. Yeah.
Any of your favorites?
I don't know. It'll come in.
Okay.
Maybe ask me something else and it'll come in. Sometimes when I'm put on the spot, it's like just swirling around.
I really want to know what an earth alchemist is. Can you explain what that is?
Sure. So I use that term because, okay, this can tie into kind of a magical story that's going on right now.
Great.
So perfect question. I love that word alchemist, and it came in to use that. So I kind of see myself as a flower essence alchemist and a land alchemist, an earth alchemist. And I know a lot of other people are feeling that call. And to me, it's sort of that process of evolution that we're going through. We've been in the third dimension, and then everything's evolving and we're growing, and our spiritual frequencies are raising, and we're having access to things we've never had access to before. And it's really exciting. And so that process to me is like we're turning lead. Like lead is sort of the denser stories, the wounds, the challenges, like this earth, the patriarchy, the pollution, all that kind of stuff is the lead of our existence here on this planet, right? And so to me, an alchemist is someone who's really working with consciousness and working to transform that to gold. And to me, gold is like golden consciousness. It's unity consciousness. It's Christ consciousness. It's source. It's love. It's opening to that we're all wanting on this world, this planet. And so that transition is the alchemy that we're all in. It's spiritual alchemy. We're all opening to that.
I love that.
And so as far as my story, I just kind of on those lines, just sharing, I've been working a lot with the gnomes lately, and it's really kind of lovely because they're kind of showing me this process within myself. And one of them is I've, like a lot of us, especially with your own businesses and doing different kind of work like this, your abundance, finances, money can be really up and down and all over the place. And so like honoring that and realizing like some of the teaching that I'm to bring through is how we can be more abundant and create new stories about our abundance, working with elementals, working with nature, working with the flowers, working with these energies that are the wildness of us. It's like the blue elf used to always say, like, we're trying to get rid of your cultural conditioning. We're trying to open you to being wild again, to being your full magic, to remember all those things we all have in us, right? And so the blue elf was a real good teacher for helping like open more and shed, our beliefs, our wounds, our poverty consciousness, our karma, whatever. And
They're
so I've
sweet.
really been, yeah, working on that one. And then I had this like picture. Sometimes I'll work with like, I love to call them fields of energy, where you just sort of, because that to me is like how we co-create in this new realm. Is like, if we can create new fields of energy that are higher frequency, then we can create like whole new worlds, right? We don't have to go along with the way things have been. And
Exactly.
so I've been opening to that. And what was really cool is like, oh, like I'm getting really strong visuals lately that, oh, there's gnomes there and they're working away, and there's pots of gold and there's treasures and there's rainbows, and it's like really magical. And it's sort of like I'm out here in the world of humans, and also, you know, a real bridge person, but also seeing like, wow, they're doing something with my business. And then realizing like, oh, it's like my 5D business template. Like they're working away, creating something that's a whole new level. Like it's the
Wow.
next place on the spiral for those of us who are ready to like, right, move
Exactly.
up and move forward. And even if you're working for someone else, like there's ways we can create this 5D world. And the more we like put energy there, like every day I try to put energy there and work with them. And I just finished one of my online classes about them. So it was really like, yeah, like let's really stir this pot and keep it flowing, keep it building, you know? So this magic world can, you know, it can feel fantasy like, but no, it's being created and I'm part of that. And that's the other cool thing about working with gnomes, because it's like, you know, a lot of this can seem, oh, this can be childlike and fantasy fairies. And, you know, like people
Mhm.
brush it off as sort of a taboo thing to realize like this is where the power is.
Yes.
Or, you know, like, no, you know, a lot of people don't get it. But when you realize that even the gnomes, like, you know, you think of them as lawn ornaments and that kind of thing, right? But then you
Yes.
really work with them and you're like, oh my gosh, these guys rock. Like they tell me like what to focus on my business to be more successful. They tell me what colors to use on my website. They tell me, they told one of my students a really cute message. They were like, you are doing too many things. And so they were going, gnome, gnome. And it was sort of like no, but
Oh,
gnome at the same time. Like, don't do that. Like,
wow.
pull in your energy. And so gnomes are really organized and practical and into structure. So here's this elemental, but they're like so tuned in to the physical. They make everything in the physical. Like they are ones you can work with to heal your body, for self-care, for your business development.
Wow.
So they're like, that was really fun. So I'm kind of in that process too of, and just to share it, to encourage other people to open to them and open to the earth elementals to really enhance the abundance you have in your life and want, because they'll help you just asking them.
That's fantastic. Thank you. I
Yeah.
never thought about working with gnomes before.
Yeah.
Sorry, gnomes.
I well no, you
Appreciate
know,
that.
they came to me like, I mean, I've worked with elves and there's a lot of beings, but for some reason they were ones that were like, no, we need some attention. Like actually what happened, this is kind of a cute magical story. When after I met the mermaids, I was, you know, excited to share about them because they wanted me to, or she did, and Britta. And then a few days later I was out in the forest by the river again, and I hear this and I'm like, what was that? And then I kind of look, and through my mind's eye I see these several of these beings. They're about 4 feet tall, pretty big, hefty. No, and they're like, we're gnomes. We live here, but we want to work with you. We really want you to teach people about us and tell people we're real too. Like you're working with Britta, the mermaid. Why don't you work with us? So I'm
Okay.
like, okay, sure. So that was around this, you know, I don't know, 15 or so years ago. So I started working with them more, and they were showing me power spots. They were, like I say, helping me with my business. Um, they're great with gardens, working with crystals, and all we really have to do with any of these beings is ask.
Right.
Sometimes we're all like, oh, how do you do it? How do you do it? Just say, I would like to work with my gnome. Will you work with me? And just see what happens. And the more you cultivate and build that, the stronger. But to me, a lot of how I've had all these relationships is treating them like a friendship, like I would a dear friend or a teacher or someone you really want to be with and connect with. And so you talk to them. So some people might think that's weird, but hey, it works for me.
It's that simple. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'd love to know more about Earth School. How does it work? Can you join any time, or do you have programs that start and at certain times of the year?
Yeah. I have, for people that live here, I have some offerings. Like I have a fairy retreat coming up, and I'm in Vancouver, Washington, which is near Portland, Oregon, for people that are in this area. And I'm doing a mystery school. I just started a 9-month program, Earth Alchemy Mystery School. So that's something I do here. But I also felt like I wanted to connect with people all over the world and co-create together, because every time we can connect, we can create more, like weave more magic, just whatever we do. So I've created an online school, and the first course I made is Land Honoring Foundational Practices. And that one's an 8-part course. It's got videos, audios, and written material, and it's fun. It sort of takes you through a lot of the protocols of connecting and introducing you to kind of shamanic work and fairy realms a bit, and how to honor land and that kind of thing. And then so that's available. And then I also have a land honoring kit, which is different flower essences and elemental essences, so people can learn how to do offerings and work with land. And then recently I've really gotten back into I've been for a while teaching this, but I wanted to share it online so more people could connect. And that is how to meet and work with and co-create with gnomes is one I just did. I did a Lemurian mermaid one, and then one on dragons. And so it's an opportunity to like have guided meditations to go in and really connect with those beings and guides and learn how to co-create, and then also learn about the element itself. Like, what does it represent? And, how do you become more aware of it? And what does it mean? Kind of basic stuff. So I've been having like super a lot of fun with that. And I'll be doing more classes like that too.
Oh, great. And I know that you have a beautiful free gift for the audience. Would you like to say a little bit about that?
Yeah. I decided to share another way that came to me when I was in Hawaii with my dear fairy friends, my fairy godchildren, I call them, Claire and Dane. And we were sitting in circle, and I was telling them, I really want a prayer to call in the elementals and connect with them more, just kind of what you're asking. And so what came in was this chant, and it's Mer, Fe, Pe, Le, Gnome. And you can say gnome like no om. And so this chant, and so I really wanted to share that with all of you. And so the free gift is to teach you the chant, and also a meditation to go in and connect with each of the elements and elementals and see kind of who shows up for you. Because it may not be a gnome, it may not be, like you had a beautiful fish show up. I love it.
Yeah.
Right? So you never know who will show up. So just to be open, but to connect. So it's a meditation to share. And then also for people to know, there's a lot of blog posts and my newsletter, I do a lot in there. So there's a lot of the teachings that you can just look through and read and learn about as well. Or feel free to get a hold of me as well. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Such a beautiful gift. And if you just click on the link below, it'll be below the video, and you can get that free gift. So thank you, Camilla.
Thank you, Monique.
It was so much fun. I could go on for hours.
Yeah,
I'll
we'll have
have,
to do it again.
yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time and sharing all about the elementals. I'm really, yeah, I feel a renewed interest and I feel really excited about learning more. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing all of your beautiful work with the world too. So
Thank you.
honored to be here.